Hello, friends. Most retirees are going to miss this. Not because they are careless, not because they don't pay attention to their finances, but because the Social Security Administration released an update this week that arrived the way every important SSA update arrives, buried inside policy language, posted without personal notification, and written in a format that assumes the person reading it already understands how the system works. Most people don't, and SSA knows that. What I am going to do today is tell you exactly what this update says, exactly who it affects, and exactly what the window looks like for taking action before this becomes one of those things you find out about after the consequences have already landed. Because here is what I have learned from covering SSA updates on this channel. There are two moments when retirees find out about changes to their benefits. The first moment is before the deposit changes, before the deadline passes, before the decision gets made with incomplete information. The second moment is after the smaller check arrives, after the appeal window closes, after the opportunity that was sitting there quietly expired without anyone pointing at it. Everything about today's video is designed to make sure you are in the first group. Stay until the very end. The last thing I cover today is the update most retirees will scroll past without realizing it was written specifically about their situation. And for the people it applies to, it could mean a permanent change to their monthly benefit that follows them for the rest of their life. And if SSA Now is the channel that keeps you ahead of what SSA is doing before it affects your account, subscribe right now and turn on the bell. That is the entire point of this channel. You find out first. You act while there is still time to act. Let me tell you what SSA actually updated and why it matters right now. The Social Security Administration has revised guidance touching 4 distinct areas of retiree benefits simultaneously. Updated processing timelines for benefit recalculations, revised income threshold tables affecting Medicare premium surcharges, new communication protocols around overpayment recovery that are already in effect, and clarified rules around survivor benefit elections that have left thousands of widows and widowers collecting the wrong benefit for years without knowing it. None of these 4 areas got a headline. None of them came with a personal letter to your mailbox. They went into the system quietly, and they are now affecting accounts across the country in ways that most people will not catch until months from now, if they catch them at all. Let us go through each one. The first area SSA updated, benefit recalculation processing timelines. Every year, SSA runs an automatic review of benefits for retirees who continued working after claiming. If your post-claim earnings in a given year were high enough to replace a lower earning year in your top 35, your benefit goes up. That recalculation is supposed to happen automatically. What SSA's updated guidance clarifies is that the processing timeline for these recalculations has shifted, and people who expected to see an upward adjustment in their recent deposits may not see it reflected until the next cycle if their earnings data came in late or required manual verification. What that means practically is this. If you worked in 2025 and expected your benefit to tick upward this year based on those earnings, and it hasn't happened yet, you are not necessarily being shortchanged. You may simply be in a processing queue. But here is the risk. If your 2025 earnings were not correctly reported by your employer, the automatic recalculation will not happen at all. It will process based on whatever number SSA has on file, not the number that actually reflects what you earned. Log into ssa.gov right now. Open your earnings record. Find 2025 in the list and verify the number matches your actual earnings from last year. If it is missing entirely or the number is wrong, file a correction request with supporting documentation, your W-2, your tax return, whatever you have. Do not assume the system caught it. The update SSA released makes clear that manual verification is required for flagged records, and your account could be one of them without any notification reaching you. Second area, IRMA threshold revisions and what they mean for your Medicare deduction. SSA's updated guidance includes revised income threshold tables for the IRMA surcharge, the additional amount deducted from Social Security to cover elevated Medicare premiums for people whose income 2 years ago exceeded certain levels. The threshold adjustments are modest in percentage terms, but they matter enormously at the margins, because people who were just above a threshold under the old tables may now fall below it under the revised ones, and vice versa. If you are currently paying an IRMA surcharge, and you have not checked whether the revised thresholds change your tier assignment, you may be overpaying right now under tables that no longer apply to your income level. This is not SSA's error exactly. The threshold's updated, and your assignment will be reviewed in the next annual cycle automatically. But the next annual cycle is months away. Every month between now and then is a month you continue paying at a rate that the revised tables may say you no longer owe. There is a way to accelerate this. If the revised threshold moves you below your current tier,
and if you also experienced a qualifying life-changing event since your 2024 tax return was filed. You can file SSA 44 right now and request an immediate recalculation rather than waiting for the annual review. The combination of revised thresholds and a documented life-changing event can move someone out of a surcharge tier entirely. The form is at ssa.gov. The impact
on your monthly deposit can be substantial, and it takes effect relatively quickly once SSA processes the request. If you are paying more than $185 per month for Medicare Part B right now, SSA's updated threshold tables are worth checking against your 2024 income. You may be in a different tier than you think. Drop a comment right now and tell me, has your Medicare deduction changed in the last few months without a clear explanation from SSA? Because what you describe in the comments tells me exactly what to dig into next for this community. Third area, overpayment recovery communication protocols. This is the update that is generating the most confusion among retirees right now. SSA has revised its communication protocols around overpayment recovery, specifically around how and when notices are sent, what the response timeline looks like from the recipient's perspective, and what options are available at each stage of the recovery process. Here is what changed and why it matters. Under the updated protocol, SSA is sending overpayment notices in batches, meaning a large number of notices are going out in a concentrated period, rather than being spread evenly throughout the year. If you have not received a notice yet, but your benefit drops unexpectedly on your next deposit date, overpayment recovery may be the reason. The notice and the recovery action are now sometimes processing in close sequence rather than giving recipients a comfortable window between notification and deduction. What you need to know is this. From the date printed on any overpayment notice you receive, you have 60 days to file a formal appeal, request a waiver, or negotiate a modified repayment arrangement. That clock starts on the date of the notice, not the date you opened the envelope, not the date you called SSA to ask what it meant, the date on the document. If you believe the overpayment amount is wrong, file an appeal immediately. If the overpayment was not your fault, SSA
made an administrative error, applied the wrong benefit rate, or failed to account for information you correctly reported. File Form SSA 632 to request a full waiver. Filing SSA 632 pauses the recovery while SSA reviews whether repayment should be required at all. And if you acknowledge the debt but cannot sustain the recovery rate being applied to your account, contact SSA at 1-800-772-1213 and request a reduced repayment arrangement that fits your actual monthly budget. Under the updated protocol, SSA is also required to include clearer language in overpayment notices about these options. If you received a notice recently that did not mention the waiver option or the appeal window, contact SSA directly and ask them to confirm what options are available to you. The updated guidance specifically addresses this gap, and if your notice predates the protocol update, you may have options that were not visible in the communication you received. Fourth area, survivor benefit election clarification. This is the update most retirees will scroll past, and for the people it applies to, it is the most financially significant item in everything SSA released this week. SSA's updated guidance clarifies the rules and strategic options available to surviving spouses around benefit elections, specifically the option to collect one benefit type now and switch to the other later when it reaches a higher value. This option has always existed in the law, but SSA's communication around it has historically been vague enough that thousands of surviving spouses have been collecting the wrong benefit for years without realizing a better option was sitting there waiting to be elected. Here is what the clarification confirms. A surviving spouse can collect a reduced survivor benefit as early as age 60 while letting their own retirement benefit continue to grow toward age 70. At 70, or at whatever point their own retirement benefit has grown to exceed the survivor amount, they can
switch. Alternatively, a surviving spouse can collect their own retirement benefit first and switch to the full survivor benefit at their full retirement age if the survivor benefit is higher. The key number in both scenarios is 100%. The survivor benefit for a widow or widower at full retirement age is up to 100% of what the deceased spouse was receiving, including any delayed retirement credits the deceased spouse accumulated before they passed. If your late spouse delayed their own claiming past full retirement age, the survivor benefit you are entitled to inherits that delayed credit. That can mean a survivor benefit that is significantly higher than what most people expect. SSA's updated guidance specifically states that beneficiaries who believe they may be on the suboptimal benefit type can request a benefit comparison review at any SSA office or by calling 1-800-772-1213. That review is free. It pulls both your own retirement benefit estimate and your full survivor benefit amount and compares them directly. What that comparison shows you may permanently change your monthly income. If you are a surviving spouse and you have never had this conversation with SSA, if nobody has ever pulled both numbers and shown them to you side by side, this updated guidance is your signal to make that call. Today, not next week. The processing cycle for benefit elections initiated now will reflect in deposits far sooner than elections initiated after the year closes. Here is the single thread that runs through every area of SSA's update this week. Every one of these changes was published. Every one of them is documented. Every one of them has a direct dollar impact on the monthly deposits of real retirees. And not one of them arrived in your mailbox with a letter that said, here is what changed, here is whether it applies to you, and here is what to do about it. That gap between what SSA updates and what actually reaches the people affected is the entire reason SSA Now exists. So here is what to do today. Log in to ssa.gov and verify your 2025 earnings have posted correctly to your record. Check your current Medicare Part B deduction against SSA's revised IRMA threshold tables. If you have received an overpayment notice recently, find the date on the document and calculate where you stand in the 60-day response window. And if you are a surviving spouse who has never had both benefit options compared side by side, call SSA today and request that comparison. 4 actions. Any one of them could change what lands in your account, starting with your very next deposit. Most retirees will miss this update. They will find out about it later, after the deposit changed, after the window closed, after the opportunity expired quietly while they were waiting for a letter that was never coming. You found out today. If SSA Now gave you information today that the SSA itself did not give you, subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell. Every update, every revision, every deadline that touches your retirement income, I bring it here in plain English before it costs you something. And share this video with someone you know on Social Security right now. The update I just covered affects their account too. Whether they find out now or later is the difference between acting and reacting.